All right, let me ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with yourself right now. When was the last time you were on a call with a customer and you knew there was an expansion opportunity sitting right there in front of you? And instead of bringing it up, you just kept talking about adoption metrics. Or maybe you saw a renewal coming up in the next 60 or 90 days, and you thought, I will bring up pricing next time. And then next time came around and you thought, okay, actually, next time. Well, if that is you, you are not alone. And honestly, I have been there too. And I just want to say, welcome back to the Customer Success Pro podcast. I am your host, Anika Zubair. And today we are kicking off a 2-part series. That's right. You heard that right. This is a 2-part episode. I'm going to record the first part and as well as a second because this topic deserves 2 parts. And I've been wanting to do this for a while now. And this is the first part where I'm going to be talking all about moving from friendly to commercial and how to talk about money, especially with your customers without feeling slimy or salesy, which I know a lot of us in customer success end up feeling. And here's why I'm doing this as 2 parts, because this topic is not just about learning a framework or memorizing a script. It's about rewiring how you think about your role, your value, and what it actually means to be a strategic customer success pro in 2026. Now, in part 1 today, we are going to dig into the mindset shift, what most customer success professionals avoid when it comes to commercial conversations, and where all of that discomfort, where it actually comes from. And of course, I'm going to be sharing mistakes both I've made and I've seen others make that are costing you your career credibility, your career revenue growth, and also just your next promotion or your seat at the executive table. Then in part 2, which is going to be next week, if you aren't already subscribed to this podcast, go do it right now because I promise you the second part is going to be even juicier and you don't want to miss it. So in the second part, I'm going to be giving you the tactical playbook, the actual language, the frameworks, the step-by-step on how to actually approach the conversation around money and upsells and renewals in a way that actually feels natural and not salesy. So if you've ever felt that knot in your stomach when it's time to talk about pricing or renewals or upsells or growth conversations with your customers, then this one is for you. So stay with me. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Anika Zubair, and welcome to the Customer Success Pro podcast, your go-to space for real talk, expert advice, and actionable insights in the world of customer success. I'm a CS executive leader, award-winning strategist, CS coach, and customer success fanatic. I help CSMs and CS leaders build the skills and the confidence to become revenue-driving pros and scale world-class CS teams. So whether you're brand new to CS or a seasoned leader, this podcast is here to support your growth. Because customer success isn't a destination, it's a journey. And I'm here to be your guide and navigate every step of your journey. So join me every Wednesday where you'll get fresh CS tips, tricks, and strategies you can actually use. Some weeks I'll share my own insights and best practices from working in CS over the last 13 years. And once a month, I'll bring on expert guests to dive into the most relevant and pressing topics in customer success today. So if you're ready to level up, hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you tune in, and let's make your CS journey a little bit easier together. So before we get into it, I want to share something with you that honestly stopped me personally in my tracks. And it's something that I've come across online, and it's from Churn Zero, actually. Churn Zero puts out their CSM confidential report. And one of the findings in the report was that 42% of customer success managers said that sales, negotiation skills, commercial skills were their biggest weakness, okay? Not product knowledge, not communicating with a customer, not building rapport, not even time management. But they said that sales and negotiation was the one thing that is now being asked of them every single quarter. And then on top of that 42%, there was 37% that said business skills were a huge gap for them. So we're talking about nearly half of all customer success professionals that were part of this report openly admitting that the commercial side of customer success is where they are really struggling the most right now. Now, if you are a CS leader listening to this right now and wondering why is my team missing renewals or upsells or maybe even both, it's because you're not helping them succeed. And I know that sounds harsh, and I know you're super busy as a customer success leader, but it's true. Listen, I know we're super busy. I have been there. And also, if you're wondering why you don't have a seat at the executive table or why your team is not hitting targets, it's because they are desperately asking for help in subtle ways, but they won't admit it out loud. And they actually need commercial training. Because why? Well, first of all, most CS teams think sales is sleazy, and they got into CS not to be in sales. So when you start telling them, oh, I need to train you on sales skills or negotiation, there's an instant, almost bodily reaction no, I don't want to be a part of that. But I hope everyone listening to this podcast week after week is starting to realize CS was always a commercial role. It was never not a commercial role. And I really want you to think on that for a second, because the industry that we work in, B2B, SaaS, or technology, is moving faster and faster and faster. And AI is only accelerating all of that. And CS is moving faster and faster and faster towards owning revenue. Companies are truly restructuring right now as I'm recording this podcast so that CSMs start to carry renewal targets, expansion quotas, and commercial KPIs. And yet people are being asked to do this work are saying things like, I have never been trained for this. And I'm hearing it day after day, week after week. And I know I live in a bubble where I hear this from most people. But the thing is, there are reports being published that CSMs really feel the need that they need to level up commercially, but they just don't know how. And that is the massive disconnect that is happening within our industry right now. And here's what makes it even more relevant right now. There was a piece in Psychology Today, I love a little bit of psychology, that talked about how money conversations are one of the most universally avoided topics in human interaction. Okay, not just work, but everywhere. People naturally would rather talk about their weight, their politics, and even their religion before they will talk about money. And I say this a lot at a lot of the keynote talks I give, but also I say this to the teams I work with, is that money feels like a very icky conversation. And if we're not willing to actually have a money conversation with ourselves or our partners or our family members, how are we then expecting our customer success managers to have these commercial conversations without giving them the tools or even the ability on how to have these conversations and training them So when you combine an entire profession that was originally built on empathy, by the way, relationships, and being that customer advocate with a deep-rooted cultural discomfort that humans hate money conversations, you're going to get what we have right now, which is a generation of customer success professionals who are incredible at building relationships, but they freeze the moment it's time to have a commercial conversation. And I just really, really want to be clear about something. That is not a personal failing. So if you're a customer success leader thinking, oh my gosh, I've done a disservice to my team and I haven't really trained them or enabled them to succeed, it's not just your fault. And even if you're a CEO listening to this, or another executive leader, or even a customer success manager saying, oh my gosh, I've missed the mark of what I'm supposed to do in customer success, I want to let you know that it's not your fault. This is a systematic gap in the way software and technology has come about. And honestly, today, I want to start closing that gap because I really do want to see more customer success professionals be as successful as possible and be the business strategists and business advisors that I know they can be. But there is a skill set and a gap that we need to fill, which is what I'm going to hopefully cover in this 2-part podcast series. And I want to name the problem super, super clearly. Now, the problem is not that customer success managers cannot sell, okay? The problem is more that most customer success managers don't see themselves as someone who should sell. And That identity gap is what keeps everyone stuck in this circular reactive dumpster fire in customer success. And here's what I see over and over again, by the way. I work with CS teams at companies as large as ServiceNow and Atlassian, all the way down to every sort of startup and scale up you can imagine. And when I start working with these customer success professionals, whether it's individually through RevUp Academy or through my corporate workshops, what I end up seeing happen is a CSM will spend months building an incredible relationship with a customer. They know them, they understand their use case, they have helped them hit their goals. They have done, honestly, everything right when it comes from a playbook, a value delivery standpoint. And then when the renewal comes up or a natural expansion moment happens or presents itself, instead of leaning in to that moment and to that conversation, they either pass it on to sales, they end up avoiding it because they're like, oh, I'm too busy or I just don't want to have that conversation, or they bring it up in the most apologetic, watered down way possible. They say something like, oh, and I think someone from our team might reach out about your renewal, or just wanted to give you a little heads up that the renewal is coming up. Okay, that is not a commercial conversation. That is like a warning label or almost like a throwaway comment. And the thing is, when you avoid money conversations, you're not protecting the relationship. I think that's a false statement that we've been trained to believe. You're actually undermining a renewal or the relationship. So what ends up happening is when someone from sales who has no context, no relationship, just swoops in at the last minute to then talk about pricing, the customer is blindsided. They feel like suddenly the relationship was just a setup for upsell, and all that trust that you spent months or years building, it takes a huge hit. So the very thing that you're trying to protect by saying friendly, that is the thing that ends up damaging you the most. And why does this keep happening? Because I see it, like I said, across big organizations with very mature customer success teams, and then from individuals who are just stepping into their first CS role. Like, why is it that smart, capable, high-performing customer success managers keep falling into this trap time and time again? Well, it comes down to three things. The first thing is identity. Most customer success managers, they got into this career because they genuinely care about customers. They see themselves as customer advocates, the problem solvers, the trusted advisors. And somewhere along the way, the industry told them that caring about customers and caring about revenue are two different things. And that is such a lie. But it's a lie that a lot of people still believe today in 2026. All right. The second thing is fear. Fear of being seen as pushy, fear of ruining the relationship, fear of rejection. And if we're being really fearful, it's fear of being bad at it all. Because most CSMs have never been taught how to have a commercial conversation. So of course it feels natural. Of course you're scared. You're doing something that you've never ever been trained or equipped to do. So naturally, we feel scared of doing it. And the third thing is the environment, right? A lot of customer success organizations still do not reward commercial behavior. The compensation plans that we see with customer success managers does not include expansion targets or identity of upsell opportunities. The leadership team does not talk about revenue in the CS team meetings, and the culture ends up saying like, leave money to sales, or sales can handle the contract details. So even if a customer success manager really wants to be more commercial, the environment that we are creating within SaaS and B2B tech is telling them not to. So when you start stacking all of those three things together, identity, fear, and the environment, you get customer success managers who are technically, they're brilliant. They are amazing at delivering outcomes for customers. But commercially, they are invisible. And in 2026, that is a very dangerous place to be. Quick break, because I want to talk to you about something that might be hitting close to home right now. If you are listening to this episode and you're thinking, okay, I know I need to be more commercial. I know I need to stop avoiding these conversations, but I genuinely do not know where to start. Then I want you to hear me on this. You are not broken. You are not bad at your job. You were just never taught this skill. And that gap between where you are and where you know you need to be, that gap is where most customer success pros stay stuck for years. They know they should be more strategic. They know they should be more confident talking about revenue, but without a clear framework and someone to guide them through it, they are just going to keep doing what they have always done and hoping that somehow, magically, something changes. Now, I want you to imagine what it would feel like to walk into a renewal conversation with total confidence, to bring up an expansion opportunity naturally without feeling salesy or slimy, to have your VP look at you and say, you are one of the most strategic people on this team. That is exactly what we build inside of RevUp Academy. It's my 6-week coaching program designed specifically for customer success professionals who are ready to become revenue generating experts. We work on your commercial skills, your executive presence, and your ability to tie everything you do back to business impact. If that sounds like something you need right now, head over to thecustomersuccesspro.com/rev up to learn more and apply to be part of our next cohort. I would love to work with you. All right, let's jump back into the episode. All right, so now that we have named the problem, let us talk about specific mistakes that are keeping CSM stuck in this, what I consider the friend zone or the friendly mode or whatever you want to call it, because we are stuck in the friend zone as CSMs and we should be operating in the commercial mode. And I want to be clear, I am not calling anyone out here. I have made every single one of these mistakes myself. But naming them, by the way, is how we fix them. All right. So the first mistake that I see happen way too often is treating the word commercial like it's some sort of dirty little secret or a dirty word. Like, this is a big one. And I know every customer success professional that I've worked with, they're like, oh, I don't want to be commercial. Or I don't want to be salesy, because they think suddenly they're going to be like a sleazy secondhand car salesman. And when CSMs hear the word commercial, they immediately associate it with being pushy, aggressive, salesy. They think commercial means I'm going to try to squeeze money out of my customer. But that is just not what it means. Like, simply put, commercially means that you're understanding the business value of what you are delivering, and you can articulate it in a way that connects to outcomes. That is it. It's not about pressure. It's about clarity. So when, for example, a doctor tells you that you need surgery, you do not think they're being salesy. You think they're being direct and helpful because they have the expertise and they are giving you their professional recommendation. And that is what it is of being commercial as a CSM should feel like. You are the expert. You see the opportunity. It is now your job to actually name it. All right, mistake number 2 is waiting for permission to talk about money. Now, this one is so common. CSMs love to wait for the customer to bring up the renewal. They will wait for their manager to tell them they have an expansion conversation, or they'll wait for sales to loop them in. And while they are waiting, by the way, the customer is making decisions without them. They are evaluating competitors. They are going to talk to their CFO about the budget. They are forming opinions about the value that the CSM should have shaped if they have spoken up sooner or if they really articulated value correctly. And the truth I want you to really sit with is, if you are actually waiting for permission to talk about money, you will always be too late. Now, I also mean that, by the way, if you're considering a promotion. If you want to be a VP of customer success, a head of customer success, a senior CSM, if you wait to talk to your manager or your CEO about your promotion or more money, you will always be too late. And the same logic applies when you are talking to your customers about expansion or renewal opportunity. The best CSMs do not wait for a commercial moment, they create it. All right. The third mistake, which is what I've been guilty of a lot in my career, is leading with product instead of outcome. Like CSMs, when they do decide to finally have a commercial conversation, they often default to talking about features. They will say things like, "We just launched this new module, and I think it would be great for your team." Now, it's not a commercial conversation. That's a product pitch. That's a product conversation. And you actually are being a pushy salesperson when you talk about a product pitch. And it puts you in the position of selling instead of solving a problem. The shift is simple, but super, super powerful. Instead of saying, "We have this new feature functionality," I want you to say, like, "Hey, customer, you mentioned last quarter that reducing time to value for new client onboarding was a huge priority. Well, we have seen teams like yours cut that timeline by 20% by using this capability that I think your team is totally underutilizing. Can I walk you through that so we can talk about how that could look like for you and your team?" That is the same information, by the way, and it's a completely different energy. One sounds like a sales pitch. "Hey, check out this new feature functionality." The other one sounds like a trusted advisor doing their job. All right, mistake number 4 is I see CSMs do this all the time, and it's apologizing. It's saying sorry before you even start. I don't know why, maybe because we're super empathetic, but CSMs will say things like, "I hate to bring this up," or "I know this is awkward, but we need to talk about your renewal." Or my personal favorite is, "Sorry, I have to put my sales hat on for a second." Ooh, that's so cringe, isn't it? So when you start apologizing for having a commercial conversation, you're almost basically telling your customer that talking about money is something to be embarrassed about. You're framing the entire interaction as something negative. Before it even begins, by the way, before you even have a chance to talk about it, you're basically making it awkward. And what's really, really wild is research actually shows that buyers are actually 3 times more likely to disengage from someone who avoids pricing discussions. So the apology is not actually making things smoother, it is making things worse. All right, mistake number 5 I see is separating value from revenue in your mind, okay? This is the root of everything. If you believe that value lives in one bucket and revenue lives over here on this bucket, then I'm sorry to say, you're going to always struggle with commercial conversations because in your head, the moment you start talking about money, you have left the value zone and entered the sales zone. But that is just super false and a false separation that you're making. Value is revenue. When a customer gets value from your product and service, they are going to renew. When they get more value and more value, they're going to expand. And when they clearly see a return on investment or ROI, they become advocates who bring in new business. Revenue is not the opposite of value. Revenue is proof of value. And when you internalize that, everything starts to change. Okay, we've covered the problem. We've named the mistakes. Now let's talk about what to do instead. And I want to set expectations here. In this episode, part 1, I'm focusing on the mindset and identity shifts that you need to make before you ever walk into a commercial conversation. Because if you try to use a framework or a script, but your mindset is still stuck in, "I don't want to be salesy," none of this is going to work. So if at this point of the episode you still feel salesy, please rewind. Feel free to go rewatch everything I talked about and rewatch it until you realize that you're not actually salesy in the job that you do in customer success. So even if I gave you a framework right now, the words that would come out from you would be wrong. The energy would be off and the customer would feel it. So here are the 5 shifts I want you to make. First shift is I want you to redefine what commercially actually means to you. I want you to stop associating commercial with pushy. And I want you to start associating commercial with responsible. For example, think about it this way. You have spent months, maybe years, understanding this customer's business. You know their goals, you know their challenges, you know where they are underutilizing the product, and you know that there is white space for growth. And if you have all of that knowledge and you do not bring up opportunities that could be helping them, that is not being friendly. That is actually being negligent. A strategic customer success pro does not avoid commercial conversations. A strategic customer success pro sees commercial conversations as part of the value that they deliver, because recommending the right solution at the right time, that is value. So the first shift is simply this. Being commercial is not the opposite of being customer centric. Being commercial is being customer centric. When you help a customer see an opportunity they did not know existed, and that opportunity drives real business results, you are doing your job at the highest level. All right, shift number 2. I want you to actually detach your identity from the outcome. Now, one of the biggest reasons customer success managers avoid money conversations is because they hate rejection. But come on, let's be honest. Everyone hates rejection. I hate it personally. But the reason why sales just move on is because they have thicker skin. And if the customer says no to an upsell to a CSM, it honestly feels like they're saying no to you. Like suddenly you're a bad customer success manager. And that sting of like, oh no, they don't like me, or no, they think I'm a bad CSM, that keeps you from trying again. But the reframe is your job is not to close the deal, by the way. Your job is to surface an opportunity, present it clearly to your customer, and then the customer gets to decide what to do with it. And if they say no, that is not a rejection of you or suddenly saying you're a bad CSM. That is just information. Maybe the timing is wrong. Maybe the budget's not there. Maybe you need to build a stronger use case. When you detach your identity from the outcome, you can actually have a commercial conversation with confidence because you are not putting your self-worth on the line. You are not a bad CSM because a customer said no. You are simply doing what a strategic advisor does, which is giving a recommendation. And if that recommendation doesn't work out and they say no, that's cool. Come back to it another time. All right, shift number 3 is stop asking for permission and just start building those commercial habits. This is the one that I really want to dive into because a lot of times in CS, we wait for our manager, we wait for someone else to basically tell us what to do. This is about making commercial conversations a regular part of how you operate in customer success. Not a special event that you have to psych yourself up for, not a business review that you have to prepare 50 slides for, right? I want you to practically put commercial conversations into everything you do. So that means in every business review, in every customer call, there's a section where you talk about future growth opportunities, not just as an add-on, but as a core part of your agenda that next meeting that you have with your customer. It means that every success plan has a commercial milestone, not just adoption metrics or engagement milestones or a milestone that ties back to how they started using your product. I want you to make sure the milestones tie back to revenue, whether that's a renewal confirmation, an expansion conversation, or even a business case for additional investment. Like it means that when you send a value summary to a customer, you do not just say, hey, here's what you achieved. It also says, here is what is possible next. When commercial conversations are built into your operating system, they stop feeling like this big, scary event and start feeling like just what you do is normal. Okay. And that's what we want to get to, feeling normal in these commercial conversations. All right. The 4th shift I need you to start to adopt is learning the language of business, not just the language of customer success, because I think you're actually really, really good at that. You've listened to this podcast. You've probably consumed a lot of content on LinkedIn. You're really, really good at the language of customer success. And I know a lot of the CS pros that listen to these episodes, you have been in customer success for 10 plus years. And you actually know the language of customer success because otherwise you wouldn't be operating in it. But I want to see more and more CSMs who can talk beautifully about product growth tied into company growth. Because what I normally see is customer success managers, they talk about adoption, engagement, health scores, NPS. And they do that flawlessly, by the way. CSMs are really good at taking technically really difficult jargon and making it really simple for their customers to understand. But the moment they're in front of a VP of finance or a CFO or a CEO, they freeze because those stakeholders, they do not care about your health score. They do not care about anything other than ROI, cost savings, revenue impact, risk mitigation, business growth. And if you want to be comfortable about talking about money, you need to be fluent in the language that money people speak in. And this means understanding how your customers measure success at the business level, not just the product level. So what does their P&L look like? What are their board level priorities? What keeps their CFO up at night? When you connect your product's value to those conversations, talking about money isn't awkward. It's honestly expected. It's actually what a CFO and a CEO would want you to do. All right, shift number 5 is giving yourself permission to be imperfect. All right, I know I come across as someone who's got it all under control, who knows these revenue conversations, but I have been an operator in customer success for coming on 16 years. I have practiced this again and again and again. And I want to remind you that no one, including myself, no one is perfect. And nobody talks about this, by the way. You are not going to nail your commercial conversations on your first try. You're actually not going to even nail it on your first 100 tries. You are going to stumble. You are going to say something really awkward. A customer might push back and you might not even have the perfect response. And you might be like me and cry after your first few commercial conversations because a customer objected you so hard and it hurt. And that is all okay, by the way, because confidence in commercial conversations is not by reading a book, by the way. It's not even by listening to this podcast as much as I appreciate you listening to it. It's built by doing the reps. Every awkward conversation makes the next one a little less awkward. Every pushback that you navigate makes you a little bit more prepared for the next one. So give yourself a little bit of grace, but also give yourself a deadline because I will get more commercially savvy eventually. That is not a strategy. It's just a stall tactic. So just give yourself some grace, but also know by the next 100 conversations, you're going to nail your growth conversation or your commercial conversation. Okay, so I've covered a lot in today's episode. And as you know, in my solo episodes, if you have been listening for a while, I always like to keep these episodes tactical and practical because that's the type of coach I am, by the way. When I run workshops and I do keynote talks or I come and work with you inside of RevUp Academy, I always want to challenge you. I want to make sure that when you work with me, whether it's with your full team in a workshop or individually in RevUp, there is a challenge to help you step up. And that is exactly why I challenge you every single week on this podcast. And I really want you to take this seriously because the whole point of this 2-part series is to move you away from being all sales is icky and actually move you towards thinking about being commercial is actually so much better for your career. So here's what I want you to do. This week, I want you to pick one customer, just one. Again, we're starting small. And I want you to write down the answer to these 3 questions, okay? I will pause. If you're driving, if you're at the gym, if you're walking somewhere, if you're listening to this in your headphones, come back to this later because these 3 questions need to be written down and answered. The first question is, what business outcome is this customer trying to achieve? Not what features are they using, but what business outcome are they chasing? Are they trying to make some more money? Are they trying to grow in a new region? What are they trying to do? Question 2, based on what you know about their goals and their current usage, is there an opportunity for them to get more value, whether that is through features or not, and whether they're using these features or not? You have to actually build a use case of what they have not explored yet. So is there a use case or a feature that they haven't explored yet? All right, question number 3. If you're going to bring this up in the next conversation with them, what would you say? Remember, this is not a pitch. This is not a script, okay? Just how would you naturally introduce this new way or new use case for them? Write it down. Do not overthink this. You are not presenting this to anyone. You are just building the muscle of connecting value to commercial opportunity. And if you're feeling bold and actually want to bring it up in your next call and see what happens, I promise you it will be less scary than you think. So I would love for you at this moment to take a screenshot of your notes or take a picture of exactly you writing down these 3 things that you are going to do to really connect value to commercial impact and share it with me on LinkedIn. You can share it publicly and tag me. I'd love to see it. Or feel free to DM me if you don't want to share it publicly. And I would love to just see how we're building that commercial muscle together. So I'm just going to summarize as we wrap up this episode. I really want to bring all of this together. And I want to make sure that today it's just part 1. So come back for part 2. But part 1 is all about moving from friendly to commercial. And here is everything we covered, okay? We started with all of the data. Reminder, 42% of CSMs say sales and negotiation is their biggest weakness. And culturally, money conversations are one of the most avoided topics in human interaction. So if you're feeling uncomfortable talking about money with customers, you are not alone, but you also cannot afford to stay there. And if you're a CS leader listening to this right now thinking, I need to help my CSMs, but I don't have the time, my DMs are open. Feel free to shoot me an email. Feel free to click the link down in the show notes. I want to help your team level up and feel confident in their commercial conversations. So hit me up. But we also talked about the core problem that most CSMs have. And there's an identity gap that we see, which is friendly versus commercial. And we see those as opposites, but that gap is keeping us stuck in the relationship mode when they should be operating at a strategic advisor level mode. I also walked you through the 5 biggest mistakes that I keep seeing where CSMs keep treating commercial like it's a dirty word and waiting for permission to talk about money. They start leading with product insights instead of outcomes, and they're always apologizing. All of these things are the mistakes that are keeping us stuck in customer success. And then we covered a lot around mindset shifts, what you need to be doing in order to make sure that you're really defining what it means to be commercially responsible to your customers, okay? And we want to make sure we're detaching our personal identity from these commercial habits as well, because again, we want to make sure we learn the language of business and give yourself permission to be imperfect, because we're not going to be perfect the first time we try this. And as a reminder, this was the foundation episode, the why and the what is holding you back episode. In part 2, we are going to go deep on the how. I'm going to give you the exact language that you should use when you bring up renewals and expansions and pricing. And I'm going to walk you through a framework called the value bridge that makes commercial conversations feel really, honestly, natural, an extension of a value conversation. And I'm going to be giving you scripts that you can use to adapt to your own style. So please make sure you are subscribed to this podcast. You do not want to miss part 2 when it drops. And if you made it to this point of the podcast, I would love for you to just go down below. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, go and leave a comment. I love reading every single one of your comments. And if you've made it to this point, you are truly dedicated to becoming a commercial and strategically savvy CS pro. So I would love to hear from you as what your biggest takeaway from this episode is. And if this episode hit home for you, please leave a review. It really does help more CS pros find this podcast and help them level up as well. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed part 1. As I said, next week, I will be back for part 2. And I would love for you to share this episode with your CS bestie, because I want to normalize commercial conversations in customer success. And I want to make sure as many customers as professionals feel confidently ready to have those conversations. As I said, I am Anika Zubair, and I will see you in part 2, which is dropping next week. Catch you then. Thanks for tuning in to the Customer Success Pro podcast. I hope you picked up something valuable to take back to your team. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took just 10 seconds to leave a review on Apple or Spotify. It helps more CS pros like yourself discover the show. And creating new episodes takes a lot of work, so leaving a nice review keeps me motivated to keep creating. And don't forget to hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcast episodes. I drop a new episode every Wednesday packed with practical tips. And if you've got a topic you'd love for me to cover or want to be a guest on my show, send me a message. All the details are in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. And hey, if this episode helped you, share it with a fellow CSM or CS leader. Remember, sharing is caring. Cheers to your CS journey, and I'll catch you next week for our next episode.